Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Life by Design podcast. On this week's episode, I welcome back the fellas and we discuss the highs and the lows of the first half of 2020. In this week's episode, expect to learn what's been working for us and what hasn't in the first half of the year. We talk relationships, money, shifts in our careers, Frankie, and much, much more. Enjoy the episode. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with the fellas. Janoah van Kekem, Evan Spargo, welcome.
Thanks, good to see you guys.
Rory's in Austin, Texas. Dave Harvey's got a job interview. Fingers crossed for Dave. And DK's just got life. So it's just the three of us jamming on the first half of the year. Wins and challenges. Wins, awesome. Great to celebrate. Challenges, because people don't often see them, especially in the world of social media. People might not know what has been tough in our lives over the last 6 months. So today we're going to explore it. Sparks, you can kick off proceedings today. Win and challenge in the first half of the year as we do a little review.
Yeah, I'd say I'd started the year full of gusto, as everyone does, and then life happens and takes you a completely different direction than what you planned. And I'd say that's been a win, funnily enough, even though it didn't plan the way I wanted, it planned the best way that it could for me in my development and growth. I'd say the biggest wins have been, I've done a facilitator training. So I did what was called a Sacred Rage process that Jacob O'Neill runs here with the Embodied Man Institute. And it had such a profound impact on me that I became a facilitator in it. And that's inspired me to create my own retreat. So that was a massive win. Going through that training and being able to take men through that process, I really feel a deep calling and purpose with that now. And just giving me the confidence to run my own retreats. I felt like that was a missing ingredient. And my big misogi for the year, as Jesse Itzler would talk about, is running my first retreat. And that's going to be later in the year. So that's a massive win, just getting through that, building that skill set. And it's opened me up a lot more. So one of the things of doing that facilitator training was that you had to embody and open ourselves up more to be able to run such a process. And so I've probably never been more creative, a lot happier this year than last year. Last year was really tough. And so my resilience has gone up, but also backing my intuition, my creativity. So I find that I'm now implementing more of what I believe, what I think should be working versus always looking at references, always looking at what other work people are doing, and then using that as opposed to actually, what do I think? So I'm really stepping into that identity and creativity and owning it. So that's been a massive win. Another massive win has just been my relationship with Bree has been flourishing lately. We had a bit of a challenge at the start of the year and towards the end of last year, more so from me. And to be able to turn that around and take leadership more in my relationship has completely changed and shifted our dynamic in such a better way. Again, last year was really challenging. So to be able to just come back from that, own where I needed to own and step into a greater leadership in our relationship, essentially give more effort, more structure, and more time, that we're starting to see the dividends now, and our lives are getting better as a result of that. It's crazy how much power and leadership that my responsibility was, and how much that can improve our relationship. So that's been another win. Yeah, I'd say that's the massive wins for the quarter. Challenges was, again, a bit of a challenge in the relationship. I noticed, and Bree pointed out, where I was neglectful in the relationship, where I was withdrawing, where I was pushing away because I was going through my own stuff. And we've talked about this before, where when we're going through our own stuff and challenges, I tend to withdraw. I tend to want to move away, push people away, deal with it on my own. And that was a challenge at the start of the year that I had to work through and confront that part of me. and lean more into intimacy, more into trust, more into working as a team, more into vulnerability. When I say vulnerability, more into feeling more exposed emotionally in my relationships. That was a challenge that I was able to work through, but that was quite confronting to face all that. And just another challenge is things not going the way that I wanted in business. So I had a projection of certain revenue to come in, certain clients to come through, programs to work, and they didn't. And I've had to just navigate that and take on the feedback as, okay, if this isn't working, what's the next thing? Or what's the thing that I need to tune into better? What am I avoiding? And then facing that. And I reckon it's really had to open me up. And part of that was working with the sacred rage process and bringing all of me into my work versus I was just using my head. I was just putting what I thought was okay in the surface, but not really bringing all of me into it. As I've started to bring all of me into my business, I've started to see a lot more shifts come through, whether that's through revenue, whether that's through the results I'm getting with clients. But that was so challenging that everything that worked up until this point stopped working. And so it required something new from me. And that new was actually coming home to who I really am and embodying that more into how I show up. And that's been a challenge because I've had this thing of not being, fear of being seen, fear of revealing who I really am, being myself, because of all these stories that I've had my whole life. And stepping slowly into that has been a massive difference for me. So I'd say they're the major wins and challenges for the year. And another win, one last one, was last year. Again, last year was challenging, and you guys would have saw it. I was pretty down and out and struggling mentally. And what I learned through going through these trainings and opening myself up more again, there was this hidden part of me that was finally seen, and that part of me was this part that wants to sing. There's a little boy in me that wants to sing, right? So I was in a choir when I was in primary school, and I was really good. I was a great singer, angelic voice, right? And I think it was grade 5 where I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is not cool enough, or I'm going to get bullied. It's like I let it go. And what I noticed was throughout the years, whenever musicals came on, wherever I saw other people sing, I'd be like, fuck this. I'd run away from it. I'd like turn the TV off, or I'd give them shit. And then what I learned was through that training that I did, I was made to sing in front of the group, and I sang, and I was shitting myself, and I was sitting there trembling. I was singing, and then a part of me just wanted to go all out, and I just broke. Part of my voice broke, and I broke into this huge chorus and huge verse coming through. Like it came from deep within me versus just up here in the head. And I was like, wow, like that's what happens when I go all in, when I just let go and just send it. And I did that. I sat down, I started crying in front of everyone. And the facilitator was like, what happened to you? And I said, oh, a part of me was seen. I grieved the little boy that wanted to be the singer, who wanted to sing and express himself. And yeah, it was a really wholesome moment and a healing moment of there's this hidden creativity, there's this gift that wants to be expressed into the world. And ever since then, I've been slowly bringing that out, whether it's singing by myself in the shower, just around at home. I've now picked up a guitar. I'm starting to play 10 minutes a night and singing with that. And I've never felt more joy, honestly. And the best thing about it, I'm not doing it because of for an ROI. It's not here to improve my business. It's not here to get something out of it. It's not here to make money. It's like it's for me. And every time I do it, my nervous system settles. And then when I'm doing it, it's funny what pops into your mind afterwards because you're in that creative kind of zone and that energy. And that's when I really learned, if we're going to do learn a lesson here, is that our gifts, our natural gifts, are our medicine. When we are living within our gifts and we're just allowing them to be expressed with no ulterior motive, no outcome, just because it makes you happy, that is healing in itself. And I swear, like the the healing that's happened through me just singing that one moment, and then ever since then, there's no wonder why my mental health has dramatically improved since last year. Not much of my external has changed since last year, unfortunately, but my genuine happiness and my ability to deal with life is a hell of a lot better. And I attribute to that one of the major parts of that. So that's me, fellas.
I did not see that coming, the secret hidden singer.
Yeah.
That's so good. I have a similar calling to get back to music. But anyway, my question I got, well, two. The first one is, it's more pairing these back to, I'd love to understand practically, you spoke to with Bree, you spoke back into like leadership, etc., and time. What does that actually mean? Like, how, like, can you break that down? Like, how were you showing up initially? Like, really, like, simply, like, maybe even give examples, and then tell me what changed. So what does it mean to actually be a leader in your relationship at a practical level?
Yeah. So beforehand, I was showing up as just going through the motions. So someone who's going through the motions in the relationship, and she was doing everything for us, and I wasn't. And I wasn't emotionally available, and I wasn't present. And that finally caught up to me, and I had to change it. So leadership for me was, okay, what's the direction we're going? So creating a plan for us. Okay, where are we going? What are our milestones that we're working towards as a couple, romantically, as a team, in our life, in our vision? So setting that. And then the next thing was, okay, how are we going to maintain that? That's when we do the relationship check-in, which is inspired from Blake, from using some of his questions, some of the questions that I created, and making that a non-negotiable every week, which we've done, which I'm really proud of being able, and sometimes it's not every day. Sometimes we've missed a few days, but at least we do it that week. We never miss it. That was a huge shift. Another big shift was I was, I would only feel good if she felt good. And I know this is from a bit of a mother wound of I'm only relaxed when she's relaxed. So I can't feel relaxed until she feels good, she's resolved her emotional thing, she's feeling good, and then I give myself permission to relax. Whereas I took leadership and going, no, I'm going to set the tone for how we are in this relationship. I'm going to feel good first. I'm going to work on me feeling good first. I'm going to, and regardless of what mood she's in or what she's going through, I'm going to do that. And funnily enough, she like that feminine responds to that very quickly when you take lead in that. And just showing up, doing the little things each and every day, whether it's a kiss on the forehead, a hand on the back, a hug without words, just feeling my presence. And all those little things over a period of time, our relationship dramatically improved. And that's leadership. It's as simple as that. There were the things that I needed to make, and that was clear in our discussion. So,
yeah, super good point. And what you see often is in that dynamic, we focus on, or as men will focus on the partner or the relationships. Like, what are the hacks to fix that out there? And often it comes back to square one is you, how you're showing up, or like square one in it, as opposed to what's a little hack I can do to, get the relationship better. And most of it is them not responding to how you're showing up in terms of your core masculine energy. And that's something that I think a lot of us guys, we can tend to lack a level of ownership and be like, oh, what can I fix over there? It must maybe her, or it's the relationship, therapist I need. It's no, it's just sort yourself out, dude. And that's often the first domino that needs to fall before anything else. And sometimes that might even be enough for then, which obviously what you've seen, right? I don't think you did much like working on the relationship, apart from the check-ins maybe, but that seems like that was the big domino to fall for you, yeah?
Yeah, 100%. It's if you want to be available for her, you need to be available for yourself first. You need to be present with what's going on with you, and then when you can sit with that, you can be more open and available for her. And that was the shift I made. I was just like, okay, where am I shutting down? Let's open back up again. When I wanted to shut down, which was so unconscious for me and so automatic, I chose to open up and open up. And sometimes it'd be like closing my eyes, just open, just walk through it. And then eventually it just became easier and easier and easier.
Sparks, what comes up for you? So some of the language that you used there was all of me and all in. What do you notice come up for you with conscious or unconscious resistance to all of you and all in? Because there's for me, and I know we've spoken about this, and I think Janoah's mentioned this to you at times as well, there's a power when you go all in, and you can, like, anyone who potentially has a level of intuition or discernment can tell when someone's all in, and there's a real presence and power about you when you do that. But, you know, as we've spoken about on this podcast at times, there's the dance of not always going all in. So is there a story that you're aware of? Is it a conscious piece that you're mindful of? Because those two really stand out to me for you.
Yeah, that's another massive, and appreciate you pointing that out. That was a massive learning this year, that where I wasn't all in. So I had to look at all the areas that I wasn't all in. And the unconscious, I guess, pattern was that always looking for an out, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, always an out. So I can always escape. I'd go into every interaction knowing that I could escape. So then hence why you're never fully in, because you know that, oh, if something doesn't work out, I can always escape. I've always got an out. It's like you're walking into every room looking for the exit door straight away. It's like that was happening in my mind when I was coming into that. It reflected in my relationship, reflected in my business, reflected in all areas of my life. And it wasn't until the last couple of months where I realized, holy shit, I'm not all in all my areas that I want to be all in. Why is that? Okay, so there's this severe fear of whether it's rejection, the fear of being exposed as not enough, not good enough, not valuable enough, not lovable enough. So I was able to look at all those things. And then as I started shifting into what am I all in on, that's when results started to happen. That's when our relationship got better. That's when business got better. That's when I got clearer on these things. And it's a work in progress. It doesn't just go overnight, but the more I go all in, then that energy you were talking about does come through in my work and who I am in any interaction. And I think the biggest switch I made again this year was that I learned that my value was always external. So like external, what do people think of me? How am I being perceived? What is my performance? What am I achieving? That was how I was measuring my value as a person. And then that hit me one day, and I went to the beach and I sat there and I just brought a journal out and I started writing everything about what do I believe that I'm worth? And then all these thoughts came up, and I realized that my inherent worth is my presence. It's not my external achievements. It's not how much money I make. It's not how successful I am, whatever that is. It's my presence. Because when I'm present, I'm fully available, and also my inner resources are fully available. My wisdom, my intuition, my insights, and I'm fully available to another person where I can add the most value. So my value is my presence, and it's no longer what is external, what is my achievement, all these other things that it used to be unconsciously. So this is the big shift again from this year, was my value is my presence, and then now it's how do I bring that into every moment as best as I can.
Something before we go on to JV that you said there that was really interesting. I think, you know, everyone's presence is the most valuable thing. But for me, obviously, as you, one of my best mates, that you have a skill that not many people do in terms of your real ability to have people seen, heard, and understood. And what was really interesting that you just said was, when I'm really present, then I can add value. And for me, that's an amazing skill, but also your presence is the value. It's so interesting that for many of us, we think we have to add value by doing more. Whereas, dude, your ability to just see people when with that real presence is a skill in its own. So it's interesting that, you know, and I've got the same pattern. I feel like I need to add value. Whereas, just being present in a world that isn't present is such a valuable resource that many people don't get as well. So, you know, I know anyone's presence is really powerful, but you have a different presence to most people, and that's why I really, I'll message you almost straight away when I can see real power and presence in, you know, a post that you've done or whatever, because it's such power in it. And I know Janoah's experienced it as well, but yeah, it's interesting to see, because we've told you how fucking powerful that is when it really like comes through. And then, you know, like all of us, we've got our stories that prevent us from showing up fully at times. But Yeah, dude, your presence when it's on is like second to none.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate those words.
JV, win, challenge, life, first 6 months of the year. What do you got?
Highlights, lowlights. So the challenge, it's been a couple, but the first part of the year, I was like, all right, we're on here. And I'd moved out of my place, so I hadn't had a home for a couple of months. And I was like, I'll find a place by January, it'd be sweet. And it just wasn't happening. And I really realized, and it's happened again, you've seen it before. I know you've noticed how when I didn't have a solid ground and base, I can become super scattered, and I don't realize it. And I didn't realize the impact of me. I use the word homeless. There was mates. I stayed with you guys for a bit. I had another mate who gave me his room. I had another mate who had a spare room, but I didn't have a safe base that I knew was my home, that I could properly unpack. I knew my little routines. It was all kind of at the mercy of other people and their homes. And it was amazing how much it impacted me and my mental health. And I think I'm quite good at just pushing through. And so at the time, at first I didn't notice it. And then I started to sort of feel things sort of fall away at the seams a little bit. And I felt really off, and, a bit of feedback from people of how I was showing up also reflected that. And so that was one core challenge, not feeling stable and solid in terms of where my home was, and having a nice environment there. Like, granted the fact that the people I stay with, like you guys, were like my people, but still, what it's like, you're in someone else's, like, your spare office or, whatever it is. And that was quite challenging. And then I was like, where the fuck am I? Things weren't landing. I was like, why the fuck is this so hard to find a nice home for me? So that was one core challenge. And then on top of that, we had my business. So the start of the year, again, I was like, all right, cool. Feeling a bit like, it almost felt like I was a bit clearer with business, and it felt like it went the opposite. And so I started questioning myself again around like my own business. So not only do I not have a place to live, my business and finances was sort of doing this. And I was kind of at a loss for, obviously there was some messaging stuff, but something else felt not right within that. And so I had to really sit with the idea of, because I remember a while ago, we'd spoken about biggest fears, and I think I'd verbalized one of my biggest fears was not being able to make my business work. And I think I called that out. The universe is like, all right, let's go. And so I had to come to terms with sitting with like, okay, I can't make this work as it is right now. Something is not right. And really sit with that. Is this a case of resilience? Because I can push through. Or is this a case of universe going like, dude, it's time to fucking look through a different path? And so it really forced me to sit with like, what do I really, really want? If I were to be successful, and I'm quite multi-dynamic and I'm multi-visionary, you could say, and dynamic, which is a gift and a curse. And a gift in terms of I've always got cool ideas, but then a curse in the sense of I can scatter my attention. And so I had to sit with that and go, cool, with all the things I want to create, what are the lists in order? And I realized that this, the coaching, content, solopreneur business was like sitting at number 4 on the list of what if I had an idea of what I really wanted. I was like, well, there's your answer, dude. Like, if that's what you're putting all your effort in, and it was almost like trying to create that as a stepping stone so then I could do the other things. It really had me sit and go, oh fuck, like all this time, energy I've put over the multiple years. And now it's like, is that actually really what I want in this form? And so that was really, this year has probably seen me have some of the lowest moments I've ever had. And so, because you start questioning yourself, like, can I just not make it work? Am I just a shit at business? Am I a failure? All that kind of stuff, right? In my own head. And so there was lots of, I was in this real like, is this giving up? You think you're Hormozis, like just fucking like churn, grind, sleep on a fucking mattress. Like I'm like, and that didn't feel true, didn't feel right to me. And then I made the call. I'm like, I need to let this go for whatever reason. This isn't working, and I've given it a kick for a few years, multiple years, and for whatever reason, this isn't the form it needs to take. And I need to let that go. And so they were two of the biggest challenges for me, and both of them, when you think about it, were both around like security. They're both my core. It's like where I live and my finances and my work. And so when you think about it, like logically, no wonder I was fucking struggling, and I noticed the difference I looked back at when I've been most successful in life, and that's when I had those bases sorted. That's when I'm creative and charismatic and magnetic and things come easy to me. And it hadn't been that way the last few years. And I'm like, what am I doing? What's wrong? Like, what is wrong? Like, why have I lost that edge? I feel like I lost my edge. And yeah, so it was a lot of reflection, speaking to trusted people like yourself and getting some in those scenarios, it was, yes, some ideas, but just having someone to hear you and go, yeah, bro, like I hear you. And then also actually here's a little light reflection, and here could be a new direction, and even support on a new direction. So, yeah, it's been a super challenging start to the year after initially kind of being like, it feels like things are going to, kick here. And then at the university kind of almost come in and go, not just yet, mate. You got a couple more little fucking lessons or, whatever it is to sit with. And so, yeah, there's, that's been the low lights and the biggest challenge for me from the start of the year.
Go on to wins, and then we'll pop from there.
And so the flip of that being the wins and the highlights was and this is, I know we've had these discussions of like, I wish there was an equation for this, of like when to push and grind and have that goal and be like, I'm making it happen, and when to step back and almost allow. And it's really, you have some people who are in that thought process of, no, you have your goal and you fucking achieve it no matter what you have to do. And to give an example of where a low light and a challenge turned into light was around the living arrangement. So I was like, I had this idea of where I wanted to live, which was further up the coast. I was rocking up to some of the most disgusting rental places. People weren't getting back to me, nothing. And I was like, oh, why is this so hard? And I did all right, universe, block wherever I'm meant to go, just fucking light the path up. Do I need to leave Australia? Fucking send me there if I need, do I need it? Where do I need to move? Where do I need to live? Because I was trying to get out of Palm Beach. I didn't quite feel like I wanted to be here. My logic mind was telling me that. And I was like, all right, universe, block whatever's not for me and just fucking send me into where I got to go. And literally it just happened. Like every other thing I applied for, nothing was working. And then this opportunity was just gifted to me on a platter. Like the first 6 weeks of that were a bit clunky because I had to live in a place with no furniture, blah, blah. But now I'm living in a good dream apartment. I'm literally level 1, on the water with amazing furniture. Like my housemate's got a sick dog, and it literally just dropped on my lap, to be honest. And it was just, so the balance there was I was taking action. Like I was applying for houses. I was going. And then I was like, all right, universe, I've done my fucking dash and my hit. Now send it to me. So, from a place of feeling super lost and confused and feeling like it was out of my control, like I was hitting a wall, to take action and then let go and be like, all right, now fucking send it to me. It's literally gifted here. And I couldn't think of many better places to be living right now. So it's really interesting to sort of find that sweet spot of inspired action and letting go. Because letting go also felt, what's the word? Weak in a way, just like, I'm just going to let the universe, it sounds fucking fluffy as hell, doesn't it? I'm just going to let the universe decide for me, but I kind of did just by speaking to it in that way. And it did. So that also brought back a level of trust and knowing, which is considering some of the uncertainty that I have and am experiencing. It's nice to have that there as like it's got you, even though this is challenging, it's got you in some capacity. So that's been a nice little cherry. And even the letting go of the business as it stood, like that model of like the content and the, all that kind of stuff. When I made that call, like the energy lift off my shoulders was like similar to when Blake, you and I made the call of momentum, right? We decided like, okay. And it was like, oh fuck, okay. And that can create some space for something new to come in. So even that was like, I was very like, push, stuck. And it was just feeling so heavy and uninspired and coming from a place of force and lack. And it was, I guess it's been a piece for me around letting go of control. And even that whole idea of like the failure of not being able to make my business work. There you go, mate. Sit in it. You had it. And you got to own that and flip to it as being failure in a sense of failure welcomed with pride, i.e. I've had a fucking crack at something not many people have, and I might have made it work in that way, but who knows what this last 4 or 5 years has brought me to and what it's going to allow me to do next. So yeah, it's been a interesting start to the year. One of those ones I was not fucking expecting. And another highlight, which I know Blake, you'll hate me discussing this one, would have to be a little experience in a temple night, which was
let's go. Yes. The Sparks know the story. I don't know how much we're going to see.
I've got every single word. I was hanging on by a thread listening to that.
Dude, it's one of the all-time great stories. All right, give a little snapshot. We probably won't go into full detail, but it's a cracker. Great story.
All right, so here I'm just minding my own business on a Tuesday afternoon, and I get a text from Blake saying you should look into this. And so I click on this thing, and it's some Eros temple, I don't know, sexuality workshop. And I click on it, and I started reading through what it is, and it gave me, like, I got anxiety. I was like, oh, this is way out of my comfort zone. And so I was like, nah, push it away. I literally sat back on it that night, and I was like, there is so much resistance to this. I need to fucking do it. And so without thinking, well, I just clicked and bought and paid for this thing. It was about a month away. So I was like, all right. And I can see the glee in your face the second you found out that I'd booked this thing. So I know the joy that you get from this. And so I booked in, kind of let it out of my mind. And the days leading into this workshop, sexuality workshop, I started to get a bit anxious. I was like, fuck, like it was 3 hours north. So I had to drive for 3 hours to Sunshine Coast. I was going by myself. And I knew that the second part of the workshop was going to be like interactive. And I was like, oh. And of course, these fears start coming up. Like, what if the shit I have to do is really awkward? And like, I was like, oh, and then I was like, oh, actually my car just broke down. I couldn't make it. Or like, you just start thinking of these ways of like how you couldn't go to this thing. And so finally, I was like, all right, I'm going. And so I drive up there, and you can imagine like there's a little bit of nerves in the car. I'm driving up, and it's quite a nice drive. But I get up there, and I rock up to this fucking town hall, and I'm walking there by myself, and I saw a lot of the girl running it. And I'm sitting on this, it's like literally like a wooden town hall, floorboards. And I'm sitting there by myself, just watching people rock in, and people started like gathering. They knew each other. These people had been here before. So I'm like, oh, I'm the new guy. Like, how do I fit in here? And I made friends with this guy. Luckily, he was new as well. When we started watching it, and we started doing these activities, and it was, a bit of interaction, a bit of sexuality, a bit of touch, a bit of consent. It was really well like orchestrated in terms of the safety and control and not having to do anything you want to do. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. And then the second part was the temple. And so and it began with, there were different sections in the room, there was like a BDSM section, a fucking rope section, oil, wax section, the middle section, and I was like, oh, okay. What are we doing here? And they were like, all right. And so we begin, and they started with the internal, there's like a circle in the middle. Just like, this is the circle where everything happens. You can do whatever you want, like anything. And it's all around consent, obviously, and it's safe, and there's lots of couples around as well. And about 7 or 8 people just got in the middle and started going for it. And I'm like, you know, and I'm sort of like awkwardly like dancing on the outside of the music, like watching it. Like, what do I do? Like, God is like, hey, do you mind if I join? Or like, it was just like always in my head. And it was like, fuck. And then, but I'd seen a few other girls that were sort of also on their own. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go up to one of these and say, hey, do you want to do an experience? Maybe go to practice shibari, tying up or whatever. So I've asked her, she's like, yeah, I'd love to. I was like, oh, so I kind of had a partner in crime. And then we went to one of the areas and we started, you know, exploring some things. And at one stage I had this moment where I heard these sounds and I was like, I kind of got shocked out of what was going on. And I remember looking around and looking at this room, and I wish I could have taken a video to see what was going on. Like there was like people getting spanked, like hard spanked right next to me. There was a woman and a guy strapped up on the stage, the BDSM thing, getting all sorts of stuff happening. There was wax massages. There was like a bloody blowjob train going on. I was just like, and I was sitting there just going, what am I, how the fuck did I get here? Like, how do I explain this to people? But it opened up my like eyes. It was sort of, while it was confronting in a way, none of it was overly triggering I mean, there's a little bit of discomfort obviously, but I was like, oh wow, I've never seen so many people just happily expressing and asking what they want. And it was totally safe. And it wasn't like some disgusting orgy like you had in your mind. It was all very curated and safe sections. Some people just watching and moving around. And I sort of came out of that at the end of it. And I was just like, oh, that was an experience. And it was joke around. So, you know, Blake back in the day would talk about, he used to love dressing up in gimp masks and all that kind of stuff. And I'd be like, you fucking weirdo. Or he'd like to get spanked.
He's taking the piss. I've never fucking worn a gimp mask, but there are a lot of other things that I'm into. I haven't worn it yet, is probably what I should say.
Yeah, it's probably one of those last ones, the thing to do. You know, you'd speak about the term BDSM, and I'd be like, fucking like, you know, or a sexuality workshop, be like, fucking weirdo, rah, rah. And it's funny how, you know, you joke around. It took me a while to come around, but now having seen it in play, it also opened up for me things around, oh, I wouldn't mind exploring what they were doing over there. And it's been a little bit of an opener in terms of sexuality and in the places you can go and what you can experience. And so that's also been a fun, challenging, but highlight as well in terms of totally opened up my mind doing something that was so far out of my comfort zone. And I know you were hoping that I'd get strapped up and whipped, but I didn't quite get there yet, mate. But yeah, that was a little.
I was hoping the host would do that, but she's obviously got rules that she needs to enforce. What do you think? Because this doesn't surprise me, but you've been different since. That there's a lightness and a freeness and an excitement. What do you think, if you were to distill that down, is at the core of that post Temple night?
It was a level of expression, liberation, being chosen in a way. Like I went up cold, like to some girl by herself, and she was like, yes, I'd love to, let's go. So there was a multiple level of, and I think also at an energetic level, like the way it was curated, there was breath work and sound healing. There was a lot of stuff that went along with it, and a lot of pre-work where I believe there was a lot more going on at an energetic level that I would have actually realized. And also for me, the last few years, it's been like, really, really challenging meeting anyone aligned. And so for me, that was like a really, really liberating and eye-opening experience. And being in a place like that where, you know, the power of sexual energy, when you think of even like tantric energy isn't just about sex. It's actually got nothing to do with what we think of sex. And so getting a taste of that and the power of that energy has obviously stirred something up inside of me as well, just by being in proximity and surrounded by that in an environment that was super curated. So that's what I'd take from that. There's a few little different pieces to it. And then also a level of excitement in the sense of I want to explore, there's now things I want to explore down that realm that I'm like, oh, cool, where's this? You know, is there a course on this? Is there a, you know, retreat on this now? So there's also a level of excitement in terms of spicing things up in the future as well, which I know you're big on. And I can now even imagine being married in 10 years time. It's, the same shit every fucking, week or month. And it's like pretty cool to sort of say, oh, okay, there's some things we could look at.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the same fear as me, I think, like a meat and three veg relationship, which is, for me, like the answer to depression is a meat and three veg relationship for the next 40 years, for me, personally. Spargs, question query for the big fella.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed in you personally, Jay, over the last 6 months is your level of conviction has gone up. So I can see you now really standing in conviction, you knowing what you want, and it's funny the amount of guys out there who I come across who don't actually really know what they want and really struggle to figure that out. And what was interesting listening to you was it's like you created your own process of how to figure out what you really want and then learn what to let go. Can you just share what that process was for you? Because I know it'd be different for everyone, but I'd love to hear what you went through to get to that deep conviction of, oh, wow, I don't actually want this anymore. And I'm prepared to let it go. I'd love to just hear that process.
Well, there's a few pieces to it. So one piece is I've obviously, a big part of my work for a while was around unlocking purpose. So I have some clarity on my purpose and my genius in terms of what I can bring to the world. And then I also started looking into, to be honest, some things around my strengths and human design and looking at alignment to my personality. And then, so I had those pieces. So I was like, okay, cool. This is how I work better. I work better when through invitation and through partnership. All right. And I remember when we did it we did this for Momentum where we did this personality test and it was super clear, like Blake's personality type is super suited to a solopreneur gig. It's aligned for it. Me, a lot less so. I was highest in green and yellow, which were people things. And I was like, so I looked at a lot of that at core base level, like what actually are my strengths? What are my strong environments? So what is my purpose? And I looked back at my life and go, what are the times when I felt most excited and aligned and successful? And I looked back and reviewed some of those experiences. And then I also looked forward and be like, in 5 years' time, what have I created? What am I doing? What's my dream? If I was going to succeed at everything, what would I have created? What businesses? Where's my money? All that stuff. And I looked at it and I was like, it was pretty clear. And I was like, and I listed it out how it looked and then I was like, of course, what am I focusing on now? And what is holding me back from achieving that? And it was quite clear that where all my focus was going was not in alignment. And even where my focus was going was not in alignment with creating an environment that actually serves me the best, which is a collaborative environment. Like even looking back I enjoyed when we had Momentum and my own business. I remember at that point that I often let my business go a little bit and focus more on Momentum. And it was because I actually enjoyed that dynamic better, working with the three boys. And I was like, and even back when I was working with my old gig, I was in collaboration. I had autonomy. I could go do what the fuck I wanted to and create my own business. But I was like, when I'm working with people, bouncing ideas off, whether you're above me, my colleague around, that's when I get off and I'm on fire through partnership. And so that was another piece of it as well. I was like, well, the way I'm doing it right now, sitting here by myself in this fucking house, trying to look at my next content post and reel, and it was all solo sort of work. And so it was a combination of, and also then stepping into what am I scared of right now? And it was, what am I most scared of right now is owning the fact that maybe I failed at this piece. And so there was understanding me personally, environment, personality type, human design, all that kind of work. Then there was, what do I really want? What's my dream? Close my eyes. What's my vision? What are my businesses? What are my projects? What's my lifestyle? And then coming back to, well, is what I'm focusing on right now the path? And then also a bit of discernment around, well, often the universe, I always find it'll give you nudges. It'll nudge and smack and smack and nudge until you listen. I felt like I was kind of getting squeezed where I wasn't in enough pain to make the call before. And it got to the point where I was in so much pain. It's like, you got to look elsewhere, dude. You've got to. And so I'm not sure if that was clear enough for my process. It was, me and then future, and then what am I doing at the moment? If I wasn't scared of failing, and what feels like, what's gut like, doesn't make logical sense, but what feels gut right to go. And mushrooms.
God bless the mushrooms. They work every time. You've had a few this year, haven't you?
Yeah.
That was like me 2 years ago. I had like 4 in the first 6 months of the year.
It's just like, fuck.
I was just on a psychedelic trip the whole time. I felt like a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the start of the year was.
You would have had 4 this year so far, wouldn't you?
I've had two biggish ones,
And then some smaller ones.
Yeah, and even they have just got me moving in a direction. Like one of them gave me a path, and it got me moving. It wasn't the actual thing; it was kind of the carrot. It's like, all right, let's go. And had some tasted experiences of what. I've had 2, 3 almost. Yeah, almost 3.
God bless the mushroom. Good share, brother. Great share. I will forever take that story with me. Temple night, probably to the day I die, which is good because I'm here for experiences.
Just picture me sexually like dancing on the stage.
I've had that thought a couple of times actually since the night. It's really enjoyable. Win and challenge, or wins and challenge. I'll start with the challenge. Janoah, it's a strange feeling when you get enjoyment from your friends struggling, and not in a really mental kind of way, but when they're just having a meltdown. And I was having a meltdown, and Janoah was empathetic, but he also was kind of finding it funny, of which I find it funny at times when he's having a kind of meltdown, albeit making sure that his mental health is well at the same time. But it was about 3 weeks before Frankie was due. Sparks, I think I've told you this as well. And I was having a fucking meltdown. I was on track at that stage to have the quietest month of business that I've had in 5 years. So I'm looking at my daughter due in 3 weeks, which really could have been 1 week if she came premature. So I'm looking at my daughter due in 3 weeks and going like, what the fuck is going on with business? I'm having the quietest month of my last 5 or 6 years, the same month that my daughter is due. And naturally for me, all I ever wanted over the last 4 to 5 years, 4 years Shani and I have been together, is for Shani to be able to just rest her head easy with a newborn, knowing that everything was taken care of. And here I am getting tested by the universe 3 weeks out with the lowest month I've had since starting this business, of this coaching business. So that was by far the most challenging thing. Fortunately for me, with how business is set up, things can change really quickly. And I remember on a Thursday night, we do money date, and then we go out for date night. And I was just broken, like probably the most broken I've ever been. I think I might have even checked in with Janoah that night before we went out for date night. And just like anxious, baby due in 3 weeks, your lowest month, all you've ever wanted was to provide Shani this kind of lifestyle, and you might be in a bit of trouble here. Fortunately for me, which the universe kind of came to the rescue in the space of, I think it was 72 hours, just business fucking flooded in, and all of a sudden Shani was taken care of for the first 12 weeks of Frankie being here. So that was a gnarly little patch, and that was definitely the biggest challenge. There's another one that's I won't say too much because I feel like I'm still kind of in it and it's quite fresh. I don't even think I've spoken to you boys about this, so I'm just going to mention it briefly. But there's been a lot of strong conversations that I've had over the last month, which I'm at a place now where I wouldn't say I enjoy them, but I feel quite comfortable in having those conversations. But they have been unsettling, and there's been a couple of dynamics that have shifted as a result of that, which I'm just kind of reconfigurating and finding my feet as a result of that. So that's still forming, but that was that. And then obviously from a win point of view, my daughter. I mean, it's overall, it's been a really good year, but nothing could even come close to comparing to bringing this new little human into the world. And yeah, I mean, 5 weeks, with her, and, I've spoken to you boys so many times. Everyone kind of says it's the best thing that will ever happen, but until you experience it, you can't experience it. And, we're very fortunate that there's been a lot of smooth sailing in this first 5 weeks. She sleeps well, she eats well. There's not too much more that happens in the first 5 weeks. But fuck, like, there's nothing better. There's nothing better. And even, I really appreciate the fact that I've got freedom and flexibility, that I can work in this office, and then, there's 5 meters away in the other part of the house, the 2 girls just sitting there. And to think so many people, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how they look at it, have to go back to work and miss your little kid for 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day. Like, I don't know how the fuck they do it. After 2 or 3 hours, I'm excited to go back in and see if anything's happened and just have a little cuddle for a bit. So yeah, it's fucking wild. It's the most amazing thing. And the feedback that I get is that it only gets more amazing, which is, I don't know how it gets more amazing than this, because this is the best. But that's definitely my win so far this year.
Mate, what a win. It's been a pleasure just to listen to your journey over the last couple of, when Frankie was born, just what you've gone through and sharing it. It's like we've been on this journey with you, and just to see you get a little bit of emotional, a few eyebrows, eyelashes plucked, has been, mate, it's really touching. And something I want to offer is just the softening that I've seen in you. But I say that in the most beautiful and grounded way that I've seen from you. It's like your heart is open, but you've even stepped more into your masculine at the same time, if that makes sense. Just to see that has been a pure joy for me in particular, and very expansive to see how you can step up as a leader, provide, but also soften at the same time has been, yeah, mate, really inspiring. I probably haven't told you that enough, but I just want to tell you here. Going back to the shit month that you had and when that anxiety came through, how did you deal with it when it hit you? And do you think there's anything that shifted for that little bit of business to come through, or is it just something that compounded over a period of time?
I just think it was the universe in the end, as esoteric as that might sound, that kind of supported me in that, similar to Janoah and similar to certain occasions over the years. You put a lot of work in, and sometimes you're like, fuck, where's like the return on this? But then the return shows up 3 months later, 6 months later, etc. And I think for me, during that patch, there were days where I just got to the end of the day and I was like, fuck, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do, because I felt like I was doing what was required from a business point of view. And that's the worst. Like, if I wasn't doing what I thought got the result, different story. Like, get off your ass and actually do it. But I thought I was doing what I needed to do. And Shani was like, fuck, she saw it as well. So I think for me, as simple as it is and potentially understated as it might be, like, I would wake up every morning fresh. Today is a new day. And just continue to do the fundamentals well. Like, I feel that's one of my strengths. Even when shit hits the fan, I'm very good at maintaining the fundamentals, my training, my nutrition, my sleep, those things, my meditation. Very little shifts for me depending if I'm in a good or a not so good place. And even with Frankie coming in, we're 5 weeks post Frankie and all the fundamentals are almost just about back, whereas some people don't go on a date night for a year after they have a newborn. And I remember someone saying to Shani, they were talking about date night. And they said to Shani, oh, you guys won't go on a date night for a year. Shani obviously just kind of smiled and nodded, but like, we were back doing date nights 3 weeks after. So yes, there's obviously 1,001 changes with Frankie here, but we've also got back to the fundamentals of what made us strong individually and also collectively. And I think that's really important for men in particular, that kind of unwavering ability to execute despite the ups and downs of life. And that's my nature now. Like Frankie brings in a whole new dynamic of ups and downs, but can I lead this family and be unwavering in doing that while the girls have their moments and the ups and the downs? And, you know, when kid number 2 comes, you throw another dynamic in it. And it's just important for me to be the pillar of strength in leading this family in a certain direction with, you know, their ups and downs that come as a result of that.
Beautiful share, mate. Thanks for sharing.
Brother.
I'm out.
All right.
See you guys later.
So I forgot the third highlight would have obviously been becoming the Godfather.
Godfather, JVK.
Duties, which is actually really, really special. More special than I realised.
Mm.
But what I'm interested in is 2 pieces. One is, how do you think has anything changed? Like, you know, there's like the pre-father phase and suddenly now you're a father. Like, has anything changed or anything surprised you in terms of how you show up? Or you might be like, dude, to be honest, it just fucking, I've done so much before. It's just, I am who I am, and it hasn't shifted anything or nothing else cut that surprised me. And part 2 is, I'd love you to speak to I know this is the guilt piece around things going so well for you at the moment as well. What that's about, because I remember we spoke about, you were like, mate, it's just been really, really nice, and we're not in a fucking hole and it's a mess, but I feel guilty.
I think what's really interesting in terms of what has changed is, and maybe this is a lack of awareness from me, but pretty much to Spargs' point, I reckon I probably received, Dave Harvey sent me a message, SJ, Megs, Anthea, you know, a lot of people have kind of messaged me, or when I've seen them in person, is that that heart-centered energy and a different kind of, I guess, energy about me, which, you know, you've known me for years, that part is strong within me. But I think, you know, whether it's me having a chip on my shoulder or, you know, a fight that I'm fighting, that heart-centered at times gets pushed back, and there's other energies that might come through, whether it's through social media or whatever. So I think, you know, potentially the biggest change for me is just a more heart-centered human. And I still have my own battles that I'm kind of fighting that mean that that's not always kind of coming through to the level that, you know, I know is in me. But that would be the biggest change. And then, you know, I think beyond that is just a fucking like ruthlessness of protection for my family, you know. I struggle to understand the place that a bloke must get to not want to be that person, to not want to protect his family, or to not want to like move mountains for him. You know, like how do you get to a disconnected, tapped out place where that doesn't drive you every day? I don't know how you get there. And you know, like I'm fresh, let's be honest, I'm fresh, I'm 5 weeks in, but I just can't imagine when I look at Shani and I look at Frankie, I can't imagine not doing whatever it takes, you know. But some blokes, that's their family isn't enough to move them, which I don't know how you get there.
That for me also highlights why maybe there was such a need for you to, I'll use the word fight, but make a stand for this argument around men wanting to provide
Totally
their partner being terrified, like being dangerous.
Mm.
And if you spoke to your biggest low point was thinking you couldn't do that. I mean,
Yeah.
as a driver for fucking life,
Mm.
I think you couldn't do that. Because you remember you saying, I wonder, like, I'm kind of feel like I don't know why, but I've got to fight this one. And I'm like, that's why. That's
Yeah.
why this one's
Yeah. I didn't think of it like that.
Clear connection.
Yeah. It's, I mean, look, we'll talk on it briefly. Obviously, I've done a 2-hour podcast on it, but I would be concerned for a bloke, if he didn't want to be a protector and provider. I'd be concerned as to what, like, what he's connected to on a deep evolutionary level. And that's not like Shani's going to work. Shani loves work. So we aren't going to fall into this traditional role of me being the sole provider. Like we will navigate that together. You know, like I do a lot of hands-on with Frankie. We'll have that kind of blend that many families do, but I still have the desire to be that so that Shani has choice as to how she wants to navigate mum life and work life. So yeah, again, you know, I feel like we're in a really fortunate position, you and I, where we're surrounded by really fucking solid blokes who are well-intended in their intention when it comes to being protector and provider. And this isn't to take away from the fact that there are a lot of blokes who do it from a place of control. I just don't want to be fucking brushed with the same brush that means that I am, you know, have some hidden agenda when it comes to wanting to provide for my family. Part 2. Yeah, the guilt one's a really interesting one. You know, I rang you and what you said to me was really helpful because I think, you know, I have a history of my ego being unhealthy, and being humble isn't exactly my strongest trait. So I've actually found it really difficult to know how to speak to the fact that we're actually having a good time, parenting, and not to do it from a boasting point of view or not to do it from a wanker energy, but literally just to say, hey, we're enjoying this. Like, I don't know what else to say because I said from the start that I was going to share my experience of like day-to-day ins and outs, ups and downs. And at the end of the day, 5 weeks in, all I can do is speak to the 5 weeks. Whatever's to come tomorrow, the next week, next year, I don't know, but all I can do is speak to the fact. And Shani hasn't voiced it, but she's had similar feelings of being like, I'm actually really enjoying this, you know. And I think one of my biggest takeaways over the last 9 to 12 months is the level of projections. And I don't think I've ever experienced the level of projections in the way that I have entering this space. The level of projections around what pregnancy was going to look like, of which not many people spoke anywhere near the experience that Shani and I had, which overall was really good. Projections around what birth was going to look like. Well, birth was an interesting one. We had our ups and our downs, and it was pretty fucking gnarly. And now the projections of what parenting is going to be like. And again, you know, we have had a good run, like a really good run. Frankie's sleeping well, Frankie's eating well, and my understanding, albeit I haven't had that many conversations, is when those two things aren't going well, then that makes things hell. But all I can do is speak to the 5-week experience that Shani and I have, which we are loving at this stage. And yeah, it's an interesting guilt where there's part of me that actually doesn't even want to speak on, you know, to Instagram in particular, where I said I would show up on a daily basis, to the fact that things are good. So yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. And one of the things that was really helpful from your side of things in terms of helping me find language that doesn't come across as boasting or wankerish was just speaking to gratitude. Hey, we're grateful for the run that we're having. And I hadn't thought of it like that. And to be honest, I hadn't had language for it, but that has helped me just take a little bit of the edge out of wanker vibes of like boasting, which, you know, I have a history of boasting, really. Like that's, you know, the lack of humility that I've had in the past. So yeah, it's been an interesting dynamic, and, you know, things can kind of turn quickly, but also why not live in the moment? And right now, the moment is fucking excellent and we're enjoying it.
Yeah. You know, it's try the pendulum swings or when.
Who knows? But also, you know, and Chris Williamson did an email a couple of weeks ago that really like was perfect timing for me. Of, hey, you know, the whole like delayed gratification and don't count your chickens before they're hatched. He's like, some people delay enjoying life because of, you know, because they don't want to get ahead of them, quote unquote, ahead of themselves, but they never actually enjoy life because they're always pushing the enjoyment further down. And I was like, that felt really true for me in this moment of like, hey, let's not enjoy this too much because things could change, or we could just have a fucking great life as parents and, you know, of course, it's going to come with its ups and downs. But hey, let's just enjoy the fact that it's fucking excellent, and we have a love bubble that is, you know, unlike anything that we've experienced before. So how about we just enjoy it as well?
Actually, what do you think about the idea that around almost like celebrating too early and count your chickens? Like,
It gives me anxiety.
right.
Shani's got the same thing. Shani's one comes from a family, what is it when you got like family traits? The spiritual word for
Traits.
it'll come back to me. But essentially, her family will often say, they'll often have this thing of like, don't count your chickens too early, as a rule of thumb. So she found herself in a similar pattern, but I think where I get to is like I can still enjoy it from a grounded place. It's probably when you become ungrounded in that, then you run the risk of getting cleaned out. But yeah, all I can do is speak to the 5 weeks that we've had, which has been amazing, and just take each day as it comes, as cliche as that sounds.
Right, well, mate, if you need the call up, I'll come down and get the gloves on and clean a nappy or two and mop the floor.
Oh yeah, I look forward to seeing how you go. I should put you. Yeah, actually, there's a few tests for you to like, more so for my enjoyment, for you to go through as part of Godfather duties. I think changing the nappies one. I've got a couple lined up that I know will give me a chuckle, and that's the main reason that I'm going to put you through a couple of tests.
I'm still at the tender age of 39 with my brother having 3 kids, my other best mate in Adelaide having 3 kids. I've still never changed a nappy. It's just I've held them and it's happened. I'm like,
Well, dude, I was so anxious the first time I changed it. I didn't know what to do.
no, it's all right. Yeah.
Well, the other thing, and this is a weird thought, but like, I don't have a puss, so like, I didn't know how to clean the vagina properly.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I was kind of patting it.
You got to get in there.
Well, I had to get a bit more aggressive and like properly clean the vagina, because I've never had one. I was like, I was doing it, and Shani kind of came over and was like, "No, you got to get inside." And I was like, "Oh, like." It just kind of it was a unique moment, but now I know how to clean my daughter's vagina properly, which is important because I don't want her getting infections. Otherwise, she might have to get some kind of unnecessary injection, because she's got.
Yes.
Which, guys, that's a little recap of the first 6 months of the year. Who knows what's to come, but we'll be doing the rounds again over the next few months. Peace.